Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, you're well, guys. So today we're going to talk about the partner exercise at the assessment center. And this is probably the task I'd be most nervous about because even to this date, right, sometimes, just a few times, when I'm presenting to someone new who I don't know, who may be in a very senior position, I can still get nervous, right? I may find myself nervous because I don't know how they're going to react, how they're going to take on the information that I'm presenting, right? And the same principle applies to the presentation. You don't know who you're going to be presenting to, right? You don't know how they're going to react. So if you're feeling nervous, absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. Inshallah, it happens to the best of us, right? But what I would say is in the pandemic, I think presenting from home behind a screen is easier than doing it in person. I found that myself personally. So when you're behind a screen, people will only see really the top half of your body. So in terms of body language, you don't have to worry about, how your legs come across as an example, right? Whereas when you're presenting live in front of someone, the likelihood is you're going to be doing that standing up. So then you've got to be conscious of your body language as a whole, right? So I think it's going to be a bit easier to present behind a screen. But inshallah, let me share some tips to help you guys succeed at the assessment center. So firstly, in terms of the format of the presentation, you're either going to be told in advance what you're going to present on, or you're going to be told on the day. And if you're told in advance, they're either going to send you some information and say, please present on this particular scenario, or you're going to be told to present on a topic of your own choice, right? Firstly, if you are given the opportunity to present on a topic of your own choice, make sure you do it on something that you'd enjoy, something that you're passionate about, because that will definitely come through in your presentation. Remember, if you're smiling, you're happy, you're showing that enthusiasm to the people that you're presenting to, that will definitely look good. But what I would say is, don't just make it completely alien. Make sure you link it back to the service line that you've applied to. So as an example, say if you enjoy football, you follow a particular team, you could find out who audits your team, right? And it may not be the firm that you've applied for. But then you could look at rival firms and then make a little joke about it, but link that back to the service line you've applied for. So the fact that you're talking about football will naturally display your passion, your enthusiasm, but then you're linking it back to the service line that you've applied for, which will help you stand apart. But to be honest with you, in my opinion, I don't think you will be given the opportunity to present on a topic of your own choice. And the reason for that was very common when I was applying for school leaver programs, which were relatively new, almost 10 years ago. But nowadays, if you think about it, if they give you the opportunity to present of a topic of your own choice, you may speak about football, but the people you're presenting to may not care or have any idea about it, right? How can they compare that? They can't, because the next person might talk about baking as an example, right? So it's likely that they're going to give you a scenario, so then they can do a comparison as to whose presentation was better, right? But just wanted to say, if you are given the option to present on a topic of your own choice, make sure you do it on something you enjoy. The second tip, guys, is make sure you have some PowerPoint slides to support your presentation, right? If you speak to someone for about 10 minutes without any visual aids, the likelihood is they're going to forget most of what you say, right? So visual aids such as Microsoft PowerPoint are a good way of summarizing what you're presenting. And there's a few things to do. Firstly, make sure your presentation looks good. It's going to be the first impression of you. And if it's on a plain white slide, not very well organized, the formatting isn't consistent across slides, that's not going to look good. Simple things you could do is pick a design. So if you go to Microsoft PowerPoint, click the design tab, you can choose a various different design to suit the company that you applied for. So one thing I would do is, if I was applying for TJX, say, the logo is red. So I would choose a slide design which had some red there. I'm not saying the whole slide has to be red, but maybe a red strip on one side. That shows that I've thought about how visually appealing my slide is, right? And you could also add the logo to the bottom left or the bottom right. And this is what you can prepare ahead of the assessment center, right? If you think a presentation is going to come up, spend 15 minutes preparing for that, right? Choose that slide design, add the logo in the bottom left. So when you're given the opportunity to prepare your presentation, which may be, half an hour or 45 minutes, you're not faffing about trying to find the logo online or a particular slide design. You're focusing on the content only. Other presentation tips include making sure there's no more than 4 or 5 bullet points on the slide. So that's very important. You don't want to have full sentences, lots of information on a slide, because remember, they're supposed to be there as an aid to your presentation. It's not supposed to be the main showpiece, okay? The main showpiece is you presenting. Also, make sure you use a mix of visual aids, so you're not just using text on a slide, you're mixing that up with the charts and graphs. If you're not comfortable, make sure you practice beforehand in creating a graph or a table or a chart in Microsoft Excel. Right? Because once you created that, you would just copy it across as a picture and transfer it to your PowerPoint. So if this is all sounding alien to you so far, you definitely need to practice using Microsoft PowerPoint and Microsoft Excel beforehand, right? Make sure you do, because a good presentation goes a long way. I'll give you a recent example, right? So I was looking at a presentation recently from someone, and they'd put 4 charts onto a slide, right? 4 charts. I couldn't make out what one of them was, right? Never mind 4 of them, right? Remember, you're going to be presenting on a small computer screen, right? Likelihood is the person you're presenting to will have a very small, maybe 18-inch screen that they will be looking at the presentation on, right? So if you're putting 4 charts on a slide, that's not going to look good, right? That's not going to be visually appealing. So it's tips like these that you should be very, very sort of mindful of. How your presentation looks is very important. The next tip is something that a lot of people may sort of brush over, right? They don't put particular focus on, but it's very important to have an introduction and an executive summary. So you can introduce yourself by saying, look, this is my presentation, an XYZ client. XYZ has been a client of, EY for a number of years. These are the services that we provide, right? Maximum 3 to 4 sentences. It will take you about half a minute. But that's very good, right? Because the partners or the managers or directors, whoever you're presenting to, may be a layman. They may not have had a chance to go through the whole presentation exercise, right? It happens. Sometimes we may rush from a meeting to go and do an assessment. We haven't had a chance to read through that. So if you give an introduction, it shows, wow, this person respects that, I'm a busy person, right? So it will definitely look good. And with an executive summary at the beginning of a slide, right? I can't remember many slides or PowerPoints that I've done where I haven't given an executive summary, right? An overview of what we did, what we looked at, and what the results were, right? That will definitely help. So when you open up your presentation, the first slide deck should be like a cover page, and the second slide should be a executive summary. The next one I've been guilty of in the past, and that is reading from the slides. So remember what I said, right? The presentation or the slide decks are supposed to be an aid to you presenting, right? They're not the main showpiece. They're supposed to assist the person in understanding the core information. The worst thing you can do is read from the slides, because then what's the point of you, right? You could have just emailed those slides over and said to the person, hey, have a read of this. Make sure you don't read from the slides, because that will definitely get picked up. The other thing I do is make sure you brush up on simple accounting formulae and financial statements. So make sure you understand the core financial statements, such as an income sheet, balance sheet, cash flow statement, right? You don't have to go into the specific notes, and accounting formulas such as gearing, net profit, gross profit percentages, because that may come up as part of the exercise, right? If you're going to do a presentation and you've applied for a role at the Big Four, an industry firm in finance, likelihood is there will be some finance or financial information that you will have to analyze, right? So make sure you brush up on those. And if you're a school leaver, don't worry. Right? This isn't complex stuff that I'm talking about. You can simply Google it, work out how to calculate gross profit percentage, net profit percentage. You can search company accounts to get an understanding of what an income statement looks like, what a balance sheet looks like, what a cash flow statement looks like. It's very easy to find online. So it's not something that you should worry about, but definitely spend an hour or two just brushing up on that knowledge, because the likelihood is the scenario will require some financial analysis. And if you're completely stumped, say if they put a scenario in front of you that you know nothing about, right? You're scratching your head, you don't know where to start, ask for help. Absolutely fine, right? You might be worried about, Fazan, that won't look good, right? And I agree, that may be the case, but it will look better than you producing a rubbish presentation and not doing well at the end, right? You can ask, oh, what does this word mean? What does this phrase mean? Or can I just clarify what we're required to do? It's absolutely fine, right? Some people feel that they're going to be marked down for that. So what? It's important you deliver a good presentation. And if you can only do that by understanding the task fully, so be it. Just ask the question. If you don't ask, you don't get. So say now you've produced your slide decks, you know what you're going to talk about, you've had a slight think about the order. make sure you think about some questions that you may be asked, right? Definitely questions will be asked. They want to see how you react. And they're probably going to ask you questions around topics which may not be in the scenario, right? So maybe comparison of external market factors, right? Which they may not have spoken about in the scenario given to you. That's to see how you handle that, right? So another point linked to that is make sure you bring in external market knowledge and something different into your presentation. That will look good. Remember what I've said previously. They're going to give you a task, and a lot of people are going to be focused on the content. They're not going to think holistically. Make sure you bring other areas that will look good into your presentation. Talk about it, because that will definitely set you apart. And when answering questions, if you're completely stumped, you don't know what to say or what to do, or you have no idea what they're asking you, right? It's okay to say something along the lines of, you raise a really valid point. I'm going to come back to you once I've had a chance to look into it. Or you raise a really good point. I'm going to look into that for you and come back to you after this meeting, right? You're not gonna, right? It's a fake answer. You're not going to go away and look into it, but it's better than looking, very quiet or nervous or not responding at all or saying, I don't know. The worst thing you can say when responding to a question is, I don't know. So at all times, make sure you avoid saying that answer. And finally, guys, I just want to come back on the nerves point, right? How can you overcome those nerves? Honestly, I'm a big believer in practice makes perfect, right? Practice beforehand. And I talk about recording yourself quite regularly. And the reason why I do that is because when I was at the National Audit Office, right, in my second year, I think, or maybe even third year, right, I did presentation training. Right, so we got there, I think there was about 6-7 of us. They had an external speaker who was going to talk to us about how we can improve our presentations. One of the things he did was he recorded us all, right? And he gave us the CD at the time for us to watch over. And the reason he recorded us was because he wanted to show us how we looked on screen, right? How we appeared to other people. So one of the things I used to do was sway side to side. And I had absolutely no knowledge of that, right? It was something that I did subconsciously. So it's very important, especially as part of the presentation exercise. You record yourself beforehand. Deliver a presentation to someone. Some of the things that may happen to you is you may feel like, your forehead's burning and you're sweating, right? I've had that feeling in the past, or your palms are sweaty, or maybe that you're shaking a little bit, right? I've had all of that. But if you record yourself, then you will see that actually, you know what? It doesn't look that bad. Although I may feel, like I'm dying on the inside, actually I don't come across that bad. And that will help you in the real sort of live exercise, because you won't let the nerves get the better of you. So especially as part of this exercise, I would say it's very, very important you record yourself beforehand, see how you come across with your body language, learn to manage your nerves, give presentations on difficult topics, make all the mistakes beforehand, right? So that when you go in to the actual exercise, you're going to be as prepared as possible. So guys, inshallah, that's it. Let me know how it goes. One thing I do want to stress is it's not guaranteed that you will have to deliver a presentation as part of the assessment center. I didn't have to do that. Alhamdulillah, I was very blessed. I didn't have to do that. But it is still a good skill to have. Honestly, if you can deliver a good presentation, you will go far. So you may want to just practice these skills anyway, on the off chance that a presentation is thrown at you, right? But it's definitely a skill that is highly valued and something that will help progress your career. On a final point, guys, I just want to say a big thank you to all the support you guys have shown. Honestly, alhamdulillah, I'm seeing the channel grow. So I really appreciate all the views, all the likes, all the sharing channel with others, the questions on Instagram and below in the comment section. So as always, if you've got any comments, any tips, or anywhere where you think I may be able to help you, please feel free to message me on Instagram or comment below.